Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to show you how we can configure email MFA OTP or email OTP as a multi-factor authentication for guest user accounts for internal applications, right? So internal applications are those which could be enterprise application as well as for the non-gallery application. But in this video, I'm going to show you it's only for non-gallery application by registering that respective application to the Entra tenant, and then we can go ahead and apply or configure that one, right? So how we can do that? And before that, I wanted to give you a bit of context about it, how it's going to be set up, how it's going to help us, and what are the ways that it is going to be set up, right? So let me go through each of those, and I'm going to talk each of those, right? So there are different topics and ways and different use cases along with approaches and limitations that we can take a look at, right? So what is email OTP MFA within Entra for the guest users or B2B users in short, right? So that's how it is called as in the technical terms, right? So email OTP MFA is going to allow external users to authenticate themselves by one-time passcode whenever they send an email to that respective identity to authenticate, and then they can use either their Entra or Azure AD account or Microsoft account, right? And then if they don't have any of those, they can leverage any other account, like it could be Gmail account or any other account, basically, right? And even they don't need to register on multi-factor authentication as our authenticator app for the two-factor authentication, right? Because this use case is something when people are going to use any application on the shared device or shared computer, right? For example, we have users who are working from a factory or from a remote location where we don't allow them to use the mobile phone for Microsoft Authenticator applications to authenticate themselves as a two-factor authentication, or we don't allow them to receive a call or get SMS or something like that. We just wanted them to authenticate using the code on that respective application and then get into the system and do their job. And once done, they should be logging off to the system and then come back. Come back and then just log off the system as soon as it is logged off. Then they don't have access or no one should have access because that's the shared computer, shared device, right? So that's the use case or scenario, right? Now, there are different companies or businesses which and where they need people to be working from their on-site operations, right? For example, there's an organization, they have construction organizations and they have different sites within city or different states and countries, right? So they wanted people to go to that respective office and they do their job for a whole day and they have to send a report, right? So to do that, the shared device or shared computer is going to be the one is going to help them to create a report. And then once they do create a report, they have to draft that and send it to the respective team for the day operations or whatever was the work that they had done, right? And basis on that, that can be shared with different teams, right? So this is one of the scenario, but there are many and different, so many use cases available for the remote and shared access levels. And at the same time, similar to one time or email OTP MFA, right? And that's why we need to set it up, right? So now there are supported scenarios, right? I will talk a bit more on that where we have B2B guest access within Microsoft 365, right? B2B access to the custom and non-gallery applications with conditions. So there are certain conditions that should be met, then only that's possible, along with external identities where we would be setting up cross-tenant access settings, right? So those are the supported scenarios where we would be setting up, right? So now how we can do that for the non-gallery applications, right? So by registering that application to Entra ID and which is a not listed enterprise application within the gallery in short, right? It is being used for custom developed web applications, right? It is for line of business applications if we have developed internally and we wanted to make sure that needs to be used, along with if we have on-premises application which is published by application proxy, right? So that's the one of the way for application, which is on-premises applications, and we wanted to bring that to the cloud and provide the right set of access to the people, right? Then how we can use it, right? To use the email OTP with such applications or scenarios which I talked about, including there are requirements for the applications, right? So app must be supported for SAML as well as OpenID Connect. So any of those can be supported and can work, right? Also, we must register it manually within Entra. So we have to register that application within Entra and then proceed further, right? Application must be configured for guest access, right? So that's also needed there to set it up, and then external users must be invited and authenticated as guests in the tenant so that we can provide and grant them the right set of access on it, right? Now we would go through the settings and configure right set of settings to do this one, right? So there are some of the steps that we need to take, and then we should be good to go ahead, right? So, but before that, I would give you one of the scenario or the example. I would say there's an external vendor who are going to access our internal applications, right? So this is the one of the use case. For example, we have an application for uh, tracking of shipments, right? So let's say now we wanted to provide access to the external people, right? So what we would be doing it, right? So we would be inviting those people as a guests in our tenant, and then also whatever the applications we have in the tenant, we would register it and configure it appropriately so that whatever is the configuration, it's going to make sure provide the right set of access to the right set of people, right? And for that, we need to configure it appropriately, including SSO and all other configurations, right? So let's say I'm going to start with external identities first. And from there, I'm going to show you how we can do that. And then I have already registered one of the application, but I'm just going to show you one of the applications we can register and then configure the right set of properties, right? And we should be good there to assign that application. And one thing is must there, which is provide the or invite the guest users as a guest in the tenant so that we can assign or provide them access. All right, so I've shared my screen and I'm in the Entra portal here. So we can start with configuring the settings, right? So once we are here, we just need to go to external identities, and then we have cross-tenant settings here. And from here, we have one of the settings which needs to be configured with that capability, where we wanted to allow external users to access the application, right? Which is a non-gallery application, right? So once we are here, we need to go to default settings, and from here you can see trusted settings, right? So this is the trusted setting which we need to set it by clicking that enable or edit under trusted settings. You can see that it's going to check all of these, which says trust compliant devices, trust multi-factor for tenants, and trust client devices and hybrid joint devices. It does not talk or does not say about the B2B users, but here is the option for us. And this option says that allow external users and groups, right? If we set it to block, then it's going to block all users, right? And including all external applications as well, right? So this is also one of the things that we need to set it up appropriately, and also make sure we have set it up correctly over here on the application and redemption orders as well, right? And under here, you can see that there is the option which is a fallback identity provider, which we are going to provide and enable for MSA, which is Microsoft account, and email one-time password, right? So this is going to be used for authentication purpose as well. And here you see there are different identity providers, which include social identities like Google, Facebook, and all other along with Entra ID as well as SAML and WSFed identity providers if those are also configured or can be configured, right? So in this collaboration or B2B collaboration section, all of this configuration is needed there along with trust settings so that it's going to be configured. And direct setting, that's not going to be configured or that's not needed in this use case, but definitely whenever there is a direct connection between two different organizations, that's going to be helpful and is required, right? So this is the one of the setting that we need to set it up, right? So once we done here, now I have already configured it correctly, including external users and groups, right, on both sides, which is on collaboration that's needed as well as on the trusted setting or trust settings, right? So once we do that, we need to jump on to the application section where we would simply register an application over here. So as I said, that application should be non-gallery application, and that application can be registered from here directly. So let's go ahead and create your own app, right? So this is the option which we need to select, which is integrate any other applications you don't find in the gallery, which is non-gallery application, right? So let's say I'm going to give it a name, something like this, tab 9, or maybe I'll just give something like an application. Let me recall any of the applications. Adobe Reader, let's say. There's no Adobe Reader, so I'm just creating a dummy of application here, but that's not available, right? And just hit create. So now it's going to create this application. And once it is created, then we can proceed further with different steps that we are going to take, right? So let it complete that process. And once it is completed, we should be good with the next steps that we wanted to take, right? All right, so we can see that Adobe Reader application is created, right? And then we have a bunch of options over here to configure on this application, including conditional access policy as well, right? Along with application proxy, right? And then other configurations, right? So on the properties here, we can configure it as needed, right? Application or assignment required. We can set it to yes or no as per needs, basically. And then we can do that. So I'm going to set it to no. And then visible to users, yes, we wanted to set it to yes. And then enabled for users to sign in. Yes, so let it keep it as is. And then we should be good here. And then further steps, we can add roles and administrators if we wanted to add. Then users and groups, that's very important to add and assign so that people, whoever is going to access, they should be able to access this application. And then we can also set up the single sign-on with SAML or password-based as well as linked authentication, right? And then from the each of those is going to be allowing us to set up the configurations for single sign-on, right? All right, and then we can also go ahead and configure conditional access, right? So there is, okay, so from here, as I said, we can set up the SAML or OIDC, and then it should be good, right? So, and here, which says assignment required, right? Which we have set it to no, right? If you want all invited users to access the app, right? And that way we can set it to no because we wanted to set it to all, right? And that way this should be enforced on or allowed to access. If we want this application to be accessible to only the particular group of people, then only we should keep it to yes, right? And then we can make that change appropriately. But the right way or the right configuration is to set it up under the cross-tenant access settings for external users as well as for the trust settings, right? That's going to allow external users to access this application, whatever and how we have configured it, right? And very important part, which is conditional access as well. So here we would be setting up right side of conditional access. Let's say we can just create a conditional access policy. So just give it a name for guest users. And this not all users, I would just select guest and just B2B, right? And then that should be it. Okay. And then we have also targeted resource, so we can configure the conditions, whatever the conditions we wanted to perform or checks to be done, right? And then we can grant as well. If we wanted to enforce MFA or something like that, then we should be good here, right? And then create a policy. So this is an optional one, but still, if in case we wanted to enforce any policies or anything, then we should be good there too, right? So this is how it's going to allow us and to perform all of that operations, right? And to test that out, we should definitely be doing the testing as well, because for now, this application is not configured correctly, and I don't have the right set of guest users invited yet, right? So it's not going to be configured or allowed to do that. Otherwise, it would have allowed to access. But definitely, I'm going to do that in the another video and show you how you can do that, right? So yeah, that's all I wanted to show you and talk about these configurations, right? And how we can do that. And also, as I talked about the scenario or examples, like external vendors, they wanted to access our internal applications, right? And with those accounts which are not Microsoft account or Entra ID accounts, but they have like social identities like Yahoo or Gmail or Hotmail, right? And those are the accounts where they wanted to use and access applications and provide permissions to do their job, right? So yeah, that's all for this video I wanted to show you and talk about, and hope you will like it. Also, hope you will learn something new about this one. Don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and people around you so that they can also learn, and subscribe to the channel for every new video to see and learn something new. And if you have any questions, doubts, put them in the comments below so that I can answer those. And it's going to be a kind of collaboration between you and me to learn and share, right? So yeah, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.